Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joelle Simone Anthony. I'm also known as the Gray Woman, and today I am speaking with Miss Kari Northey, who needs no introduction. Kari, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, dear?
I have no complaints.
That's good. No, I'm doing good. I'm home a lot with the kids, so I'm trying to let them fill me with happy rather than get stressed by being at home with them a lot. So, joy.
Well, I don't have children. I have a dog, so I've been spending a lot of time with my dog, going on lots of walks. So
Yeah, I know. Everybody says we're going to gain all these pounds being in quarantine, but I've walked and moved more than I think I ever have during this, which is not a bad thing. So,
not a bad. And I made a conscious decision when my part-time job said that they were going to have us work remotely. I said, okay, I'm not sitting in the house and eating and watching TV all day. I am going to get up and get at least 5,000 to 6,000 steps a day, which
yeah.
sadly for me is a lot, but now I'm up to like 7,000 and 8,000.
Which is
So
awesome.
exactly. So I just wanted to come and chat with you today because I've been getting a lot of comments and questions about, what's happening, what are people going to do if they can't have funerals? And instead of feeding into the panic, I wanted to talk about creative ways that families, friends, coworkers, or whoever is experiencing a loss can celebrate their deceased loved one. And I know you have plenty of experience with thinking outside the box. So what are some ways you think people can celebrate their loved ones?
I think we're seeing a lot of things that should maybe be in place along the ways anyway. I think there's been a lot of blessing out of all of this that we're all reminded to go, things we should be doing cautiously along the way, especially within a funeral home anyway, when we're handling any deceased, we're being reminded of that, but we're also being reminded we need to have remote systems in place for making arrangements and having services. So I think a lot of funeral directors have quickly gotten tech savvy to be able to live stream services, to be able to record services, to do things a little, like you said, outside of their normal box, but it's just how our society works now. You even for your aunt and uncle's service cannot always get off work to attend a service. So to have it live streamed where maybe you could take a 10-minute bathroom break and you could watch your aunt or uncle's service live streamed from your phone that day, rather than being able to attend, at least it's something. And we're finding now that's how we are being forced to have services, is without people around us. I just got off the video with Matthew in England, and if they have anybody who dies of COVID-19, they cannot have anybody attend any service for that person. There's nothing. It's absolutely void of family even. So he said we are really struggling to tell families that, because it's a horrible thing to have to be the one to say, I'm sorry, but the rule right now is you can't come to a service for your dad, or you can't come to a service, but they are recording it or they're live streaming in that moment when they're there as the funeral director taking them to the place. And so we're having to figure out human connections outside of physical connection. And I think that's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, it's at the sake of a lot of bad moments. I saw somebody post yesterday, they did a drive-by visitation at a funeral home, and I thought that was cool. It wasn't like drive by the window and you could see the deceased, but it was drive by and show support for the family. So the family sat outside in chairs in the parking lot, and they created kind of a drive-through line. You couldn't roll down your window, but people could drive through and just say, we're here, we love you, we are stopping in this moment and being with you, even when we can't, give you a hug or something. And just the show of support means more during the moment. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we've gotten accustomed to is, well, I can't attend the funeral, or I can't attend to the visitation. And this is pre-pandemic. Some of the thinking is, I can't attend something and it's fine because other people will.
Mhm.
They're not going to miss me. So it's no big deal that I can't go. Showing a sign of support means more to people than you know, especially if you're maybe not somebody who typically they would think would show up. So making that initiative and that effort means a lot. So especially right now, when people can't be surrounded by loved ones, they can't be surrounded by other people, drop a card in the mail as quick as you can, drop a letter in the mail as quick as you can, pick up a phone. When's the last time you picked up a phone and called your friend and didn't just text them? Actually had a conversation with them, pick up a phone and reach out, because these families are hurting, and they're hurting in ways we can't know unless we have lost somebody during this time and been told, no, you can't honor your mom in this moment the way you want to. We can't know what that feels like. So we need to step above and support even more. And what else do we have time to do right now? We're all in lockdown. So you have all the time in the world to do those things and to step up. And so I think, that drive-by was such a cool idea that, well, one, I can get out of my house and drive in the car for 10 minutes and go to the funeral home and just pass by and press my hand to the window and say, I'm here and I love you. Your mom was loved, you're loved, and then keep driving is huge. It's huge. So I think that people are getting creative, like you said, and they're doing special things. I know one funeral home, I'm rambling, aren't I? Woo! One
Oh, you're good.
home was doing, I don't know how it's going to play out in the long run, but they said, if you call us and tell us that you wish you could be here, we'll put your name and a sentiment on a balloon. And so they filled like their chapel with balloons with these cards on the bottom. I don't know how practical that is. Then you just pop all the balloons and you send all the cards home with the family. I don't know how that's going to follow, kind of carry out, but the sentiment is nice to it, to show that these are people would fill this space if they could be here. I think it's a lot of, balloons to be putting out into the environment, which I'm not a big fan of, but I like the sentiment to it, to do something to show quantity of people that love you and to show support and to show what could be surrounding you. So I think there's different ways people are trying to get creative during this time. What has been a lot of your initial?
Like you talked about the virtual aspect, I've spent a lot of time helping the funeral home get set up virtually over because it's not something that we've done consistently. And I actually did a live session on YouTube the other night, and I don't remember whether it was a woman or a gentleman suggested having people make pre-recorded remarks about the deceased and playing them online for like compiling the videos.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. And there's actually a funeral home here that has a drive-through viewing window.
Mm-hmm.
And before now, it was like a big joke around town. But now it's like, okay, I bet you they're getting a lot of business. And I wish I could remember the name of the funeral home to promote them, but I can't. But yeah, I think the tapping into the virtual aspect is really good, but long term, I think that it's really going to change the way that we grieve as a species. And I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, or whether it's for the best or the worst, because we're already such a thanophobic culture and society. And I could go off on that for hours, but I think a lot of art is going to come out of this, which I just am a total fan of. People are going to have to find ways to creatively express their condolences, because sometimes just picking up the phone, I feel, at least for me, is just not enough. Like I want to hug a person and console them and look in their eyes and tell them I'm here. And I haven't experienced the loss since this pandemic started, or no, well, actually I have. My godson actually passed away, and it's a long story, but his family has already gone through a loss of a child, right? and they decided to do a completely non-traditional service. So what they did was rent out a room in a community center and had catered food and everything, and they had guests coming in and out. It wasn't limited by any number or anything, because I think this was a little bit before they started saying no less or no more than 10 people could be together. But just things like that, having things privately amongst families, I've seen a lot of. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we here in Georgia are taking this as seriously as we should.
I think that's everywhere.
Yeah. And I don't know, Kari, but as far as creative things, I just think a lot of art is going to come out of this.
You know, you talked about as a society or as a species, kind of how it's evolving. I've said for a while, I think that, you know, as we cycle through different seasons within this profession, you know, for a long time it was very traditional burial, visitation service, and then we've gotten into this direct cremation, this disposable life season, which I absolutely hate. But what I see has already started happening is in the kind of generation that started that, they kind of were disposing of the older that way and not giving their children chances to gather and celebrate. And they kind of robbed this next generation of the memorial even, or just stopping and reflecting. And so I'm already seeing once in a while where that generation is now burying the next one. And they're saying, well, when mom died, or when mom buried grandma or whatever, you know, she just cremated her and she's still in the closet. We never did anything. And I never have liked that. And they're now changing their method. And what I see is that this can propel some of that thinking back around to the importance of the gathering and the just kind of that journey through those weeks after a death. That it's not going to say, oh, we need to have burials, or oh, we need to have cremation. It doesn't matter the disposition, it's the stopping and reflecting and the gathering and the support. And that during this time when we're starved of that, it's going to force people back to knowing and realizing how important that time is. I think that's where we're on the path to anyway, but it takes like 30 years for our business to really cycle to anything different. But I think this is really going to propel a lot of thinking and a lot of people back to understanding just doing a quick disposition without anything and then sticking somebody on the shelf at home because we don't want to deal with it is not the way we want to be doing things. And that it doesn't have to involve the funeral home. It can just be a gathering of some sort. But gathering right now, since we can't do it, people are understanding they need it. And so unfortunately, it's the people that are losing during this time that are going to be learning that lesson if they needed to learn it. But it's not like I want anybody to learn that lesson, but I think it's going to be learned through this. So I'm trying to see the good outcomes and the good that this will impress on us as a society. But I think that's one big thing that I think will change is people will understand the life needs to be reflected on and stop as a society for a moment and do something for those people. You know, and it's the people that fight back against us the most right now that say, we are having a funeral for mom. She deserves this. Well, she does deserve it. We just can't do it right now. So let's hold mom for a few weeks and then see what happens. Or let's hold and then we can have that later. Or let's do the burial and then we can gather later. Or let's, you know, it might not be in the time frame we want to do things. And that's what, as directors, we have to almost impress that calm when we're talking to families, because they hear no, no, no from the rules. But we need to, just like any other time, we need to give them the options that are possible. We need to give them the answers that are possible. Yep, you can't have a 200-person gathering like you want to have for your mom right now. We can gather the immediate 10 people at the gravesite and bury her. and we can have your large gathering in a few weeks, or we can live stream it for everybody who you think might be there. But if gathering and having those people around you and having that show of 200 people for your mom is important, then we wait on that component. But it ain't happening now, because your lives and our lives as a staff are more important than this. And this is something that can wait, unfortunately. But we have to be strong and we have to be definitive, because there's some funeral directors that are just letting families press forward, and you're putting your whole staff at risk. And that's not fair. That's not fair to people who are devoting their life to taking care of the deceased, that they have to be put in harm's way because we're not sticking by the rules. Because we can do our jobs and we can do it more safely, because we're already at risk enough with what we're doing and going into these hospitals and meeting with families and doing these things. But we can do it more safely and we can do it most effectively. It's just a united front, and it's just not happened yet. But and I think some of that is because we're kind of forgotten in the whole process. You know, we're focused really much on the caregivers of the living, but people are dying, and they're not just dying of COVID, they're dying of everything. I mean, people are having heart attacks every day. People are still dying of cancer every day. People are just still being old and dying. We have to care for everybody, and we have to care for those families still, no matter what. We can't stop. And so we have, you know, we're not out there in the front being praised and supported as openly and freely. It's the, I don't know, it's the forgotten always, but we keep doing what we do. So which is what it is.
I'm glad you touched on that. I was going to ask, at what point do you think funeral directors should just draw the line and say, you know what, I'm not doing this? Because even honestly, Kari, I was trying to explain to a friend of mine, 90% of the time, when someone comes in the funeral home, unless it's a visible trauma, and even in those cases, we really don't know what a person has died of. And there has not been enough research done on this virus to know if it still lives in the body post-mortem.
There's far more number of viruses that I'm terrified of than COVID-19.
Right.
There just truly are. And so maybe I'm being naively not scared of this virus, like maybe I should be. I understand how contagious it is, because we are not, you know, doing what we should do and secluding as much as we should. But there's far worse things I am more worried about catching. But the thing is, like you said, they've said this has been around far before we got scared of it. This was around, you know, and we've probably been handling bodies that had this. So that's why this has been a good reminder to us that we need to treat every deceased like they are contagious with something, because we've gotten too lax in a lot of funeral homes for that. So I think this has been a really great reminder. But just like the medical community does not have the supplies right now, we don't have the supplies. We are still embalming and we're still caring, and we have to go into the hospitals and we have to bring the deceased out and we have to bring them back to the funeral home. We're, you know, doing all we do, and we don't have the right masks, we don't have the right gloves, we don't have the right everything to replenish greatly, just like at the hospitals. And it's scary. It's a very scary time for us. And we're meeting with families. A lot of people are meeting remotely on the phone and stuff, which is really nice. But, you know, I met with a family and we said 2 people is all you're allowed to bring into the funeral home. If you need to come in, they walk in with 3 because they just thought they needed to, you know. And so it's the mentality of people it doesn't pertain to them. And I think we as funeral directors cannot stop, because where will the bodies go? People are still dying. Mm-hmm. Hospital morgues are going to be full. We can't just keep bringing in refrigerator trucks, because at some point all these bodies have to be cared for. They're not piling up everywhere from COVID-19 just. You have one COVID-19, let's say death, you have 10 others that day from something else. So now you have 11 bodies you have to care for. And just because you don't want to handle the one COVID-19 person, you're now going to have 11 bodies that are just there not being cared for. And we can't do that. Like, we have to keep processing as much as we can. Embalming gives us time by allowing us to maybe store somebody if we can't do the burial. We have to keep processing the cremation paperwork for those that want to be cremated, that we can quickly do that cremation. So we have to keep pressing forward as a funeral industry to keep handling those that are dying, and unfortunately has become just a business in a lot of way. And the nurturing and the caring for part is not able to be happening, because me talking to, Mary Smith on the phone about her husband that died, I can't like reach out, touch her hand. I can't give her a hug. I can't do what I would usually do. And I have to tell her, sorry, we can't have a funeral. So do you want him buried or cremated? Because that's what we have to have be done in a certain time period. So what would you want us to do? And so it's a much more just logistical action that we're having to do now, which is not like most of our personalities. It just, I think it feels cheapening almost what we do by making, but unfortunately that's just the time we're living in at this moment. And this will not be forever. This is not like it's been going on for 2 years and it's going to go on another 2 years. This has just been weeks and a few months at this point. So hopefully it's only a few more months if everybody can just follow the rules and, cut back on who they're exposing themselves to. But I think it's just day by day. We have to just keep doing what we're doing and keep doing it as safely as we can do it. And for people to just stick by the rules and understand we're not making them, we're trying to do the best we can.
And I think it's also important that funeral homes, a lot of times this is such a competitive business, and one home around the corner is trying to outbid or go
Right.
under to get the body or the family or whatever. And I have seen families play games between funeral homes, call and say, well, such and such around the corner said we can have a service. I can't tell you what such and such,
Right.
but what I'm telling you is what's going to happen here.
Right.
And it's just insane.
Well, and there's funeral homes right now who are saying they won't care for someone if they've died of COVID-19, or that they're going to charge more for hazard pay for caring for someone with this, that, or the other, or they're going to charge to live stream a service because that's the only option, or they're going to charge for this and that. And I think we're going to get a lot of really bad situations going. It's only giving more ammunition for people to be negative about the funeral industry, to be negative about things. Oh, we're going to have to store your loved one for 3 weeks because we can't have the funeral. Well, we're going to just charge you storage fees. And yes, there's things on the general price list, but that's by law. We have to be doing that, not by the family's choice, obviously. So I think this is where we have to have grace as a funeral industry. I understand that we're going to be making less money because we're not having visitations. We're taking a hit right now on cost, where our risks have gone up and our income has gone way low. And nobody has done this to us but this disease. Like, this is just what it is. And we can be mad at the world, or we can just do our jobs.
Right.
And to make that choice. And there's going to be people on each side of the line. And all I can do is, the best I can do every day. I'm thankful. I'm a freelance. And so, I'm just not doing much work right now because staffing has been cut. So I can make arrangements from home if need be for people, and I can be kind of backup support. Or as Matthew said on our call, he said he's got one director who's quarantined at home and he's kind of on the bench. That way, if anybody feels ill, he can come in and sub. And so I'm ready and waiting if that time comes that I need to be that support for a funeral home that, I work with, that they need me to come in because somebody feels ill or they get overrun or something happens. And that's all we can do is help, like you said, help each other too. Like, we have to be in this together because but I can see where it gets ugly because it's called humanity. It's, people punching each other for toilet paper. It's where we're at right now, right now, which is terrifying.
It is, but I'm also seeing the beauty come out of a lot of people. It has both sides to it. And like you said, I think so much of this goes against our nature as funeral professionals because we are and we do want to fix situations. I think this is where learning how to enforce boundaries, both professional and personal, come in. I'm working very, very hard. But it's bringing out a lot of beauty. And again, I'm excited to see the art that's coming out of it. I'm even seeing it on social media where young kids are doing these beautiful drawings of their deceased loved ones when they're losing them. And I just feel like it's an expression of what they're feeling that they can't get out of the way.
Yeah.
What else? Gosh, what else? You have anything else?
Oh, I don't. I think I rambled about everything. Things I didn't even think I thought. I was just verbally. No, it's good. I think it's a good conversation that needs to be shared. There's so much I want to scream from the rooftops about this right now, and you don't know who's ever going to listen or if it'll change anything, and the people you want it to change, won't listen because they won't change for anything. But I think it's a sad time we're living in. There's just heartbreaking moments that are scary. As a mom, I'm having to be strong for my kids. My kid coughs and she starts crying because she thinks she's going to die of the coronavirus, which, a 6-year-old saying coronavirus is so cute in a weird way. But, it's trying to be a calm when sometimes you do get a little scared and you do get worried. What if? Because if this disease was something else, it could be truly annihilating for our society and for our world. If it was something that was, more of a killer of a virus. So it is terrifying what could happen, and seeing the societal response is the scary part to me. But like you said, it's also the beautiful stuff. Seeing people out saying hi to each other, walking on opposite sides of the street. And you would think that we almost lost power or something, because how many people are maybe out walking or out riding bikes or doing things, but people are getting sick of just sitting at home with the same person. So you get outside and get more air, and you get, we'll go out and we'll sit in our driveway with chairs, and we have several of us right near each other on this little S in a road. And so we go out and, we'll go out and have a driveway beer, we call it, or a driveway cocktail. Once, everybody brings out their chairs and you're all far enough and you're outside and you're getting your UV light, which is good to kill the bugs anyway. And that's been really nice. It's been nice to have those. Our neighbors coming home from Florida tomorrow, they winter down there, but they live in the villages, and they have started having contagion down there, and it's all old people. So they're like, we're getting the heck out of Dodge. We're going to come home, drive in our garage, and you're not going to see us, but we'll be home. So we hung up their kitchen window faces a big window on ours. So we made a big sign that says, it says Jerry and Linda. And the girls have made different signs to put at the top. The first one says like, welcome home. So every day we're going to change like, good morning, or what are you having for breakfast, or have a good day. So when they go to their kitchen window, they're going to have a different sign every day that says something to them. They've sent letters via mail to all their friends and things. And I think, like you said, there's this way of showing our children how we can connect that is not just a text message, because that is so missing in our society. People drive in their garages and never say hi to neighbors. People are out and you're saying hi to neighbors and you're waving at people and you're interacting with people maybe you never would, because we're having to think and look differently at who's around us and who we can have contact with. I think that's, like you said, there's beautiful. We got to just look for it. And we're all kind of in it together. This isn't just one little population. This is everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody's feeling bad, people feel bad for themselves, and it's those people that, unfortunately, like, we're all in this boat together. I'm sorry, but I can't, I'm not gonna feel bad for you because it's the same situation for me. We're all quarantined. We all gotta wipe our butt, so we all need toilet paper. Like, it is. Like, we all have the same food, we all have the same everything. Like, it's okay. And I get it's hurting people financially, and I get kids aren't in school, but we'll all figure it out together. Like, it'll be okay. Like, God's got this.
Yes.
I can't sit and worry about it, I gotta just trust. So it's crazy. That was a rant too, sorry.
No, that was beautiful, and it's very honest. The biggest thing for me has been keeping my mind busy, because it's very easy, especially, it's like the more you know, the worse it is.
Yeah.
And not only have like the human aspect of compassion and caring for people, but then we also have the microbiology and the anatomy and all of those things. And it's like all of that information is coming to the forefront when you hear the news, and you're constantly getting all of this accurate and misinformation. So like I was telling you earlier, walking with my dog and, cleaning the house, or just talking to people, having conversations like this, it's helping me. I have slight anxiety, and it's like the other night I found myself up until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just thinking, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, I can't sleep. I'm like, I lay in bed and my mind is going.
And then on top of that, seeing death on a regular basis, it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to let this drive me crazy. Yeah. Keep your mind busy, stay positive, and turn the TV off. Like, turn the news off. Unfollow the negative social media pages. That's what I'm having. Yeah.
And one thing that I found really early in all of this is the media is so skewed from reality. Like, HIPAA does not allow us to know how many real people are diagnosed, and how many real people have this, and how many real people, like, there's not enough testing for us to know reality. There's not enough, public information for us to know things. So there was a day it was like, oh, the first case has been reported in such and such county. And I'm like, I know firsthand that there are 30 confirmed cases at that hospital right there. And they just are announcing one. That's how skewed, just in that minuscule moment, it was. And I'm like, I can't listen to this anymore, because announcing 2 people now or 3 people, no, those numbers are not right, and I can't listen to them. So it's, yeah, you have to distance from all of that, but people are so consumed by it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like,
I have a coworker who was saying that a gentleman that she's in a class with in China, like, he's from China and he's in the class here, that he came into class upset, couldn't do his presentation, and everyone was asking him if he was okay, because he's normally calm and collected. And he was saying, he started covering up his book bag and started, being a little paranoid, and saying that his best friend back in China lost 4 of his children to the virus. Aww. And when they came to get the body, they put all of the children in one body bag so that they only had to report one death. Now,
no word.
Right. That's horrible on so many levels.
Yeah, there's a lot that's just happening that you just don't know, and you can't control it. And I pray that, it just doesn't come intersect me too closely, but all we can do is just wait and see and hope and do the best we can. But it's hard when you see people that are just going about as if nothing has changed, because they can't seem to change their behavior and they don't think it pertains to them. And that's you're affecting my world and my life by doing that right now. And so I'm calling people out that probably don't want to be called out because of putting themselves and other people at risk. And it's like, why are you doing that? I don't understand. Like, people that work at nursing homes and just keep gathering outside of work with larger groups or with other people that work at other places, and then they all come back together and then they all hang out and then you go back to the nursing home. Like, you can't do that. And don't get me started.
So I have one more question.
Yeah.
How do you feel, or how are you seeing that the constant berating of both accurate and misinformation, along with constantly seeing death, death, death on the news, is affecting those who are already grieving?
Grieving death from this or just other?
General. From this, from car accidents, from, from anything, and then having to be isolated.
That's where the reaching out, if you were going to do it before with dropping by, making sure to pick up the phone and checking on people that are in isolation. I worry about people that are just single to begin with and they're at home by themselves. Like, not only to compound being elderly, compound, being high risk in different areas where a lot of those who are new widowers are in that category, where your kids can't come check on you. They can't keep bringing you meals. Maybe they do, and they're trying to help and stuff, but people are probably drinking more. People are making some bad choices that they wouldn't have made originally. And I think it's, you have too many thoughts that you're trapped at home with sometimes. So I think maybe it can be healing for some to have that peace and that quiet and maybe that time in that space where maybe you would avoid. Let's say I had lost my husband and I'm home by myself. Maybe I had lost my husband and I was home by myself. And where usually I would say, well, nope, I'm not going to be in my house. I'm not going to be around his things. I'm going to go, I'm going to just carry on about normal. And I'm not going to focus on his closet and his clothes or on anything. And this forces you to kind of confront some of those things. So for some, it may be good. For others, may be detrimental. I think it's so individualized how people are going to be in this space. I can't imagine having lost somebody and having to look at all this. I think I would be thankful that my loved one had died before this happened so that I could have the service that I had wanted. But then I would probably feel guilt for feeling that. I think there's a lot of compounded emotions that go into that. So I think that's a great question, because there are people right now that they're trapped at home in their grief from having lost someone in the last month or two previous to all of this. And now they're having to have all these thoughts and such. So I think there's a lot to all of that as well. So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a lot to think about, but my phone is actually on 20%. That's why it cut out just now.
Oh, okay. Well, we can wind down. We rambled for long enough, I guess.
I feel like therapeutic. It went in a totally different direction, but I feel like you got a lot out and I got a lot out, and here
it's good.
It's like, okay, I'm not the only one feeling this. So.
No, I think we all feel so much during this time, and it's so hard to know how to process it. I think we're in a unique position that we can't avoid the death and we can't avoid what's happening, because that's what we do and that's what we see and that's who we have chosen to care for. So we're an army of people that care for the dead. So we can't just walk away from our responsibilities. It's just not part of who we are, and it's not part of what we can do, unfortunately. So that's why we're an army. We can't, we're in it to win it, to do what we got to do.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for being so vulnerable.
Of course.
About you. You're like so raw, and I love it. I just love it.
I just like to word vomit everything that comes to my mind, and it's kind of nice to focus some of those thoughts with you, because I told Joelle when we got on, I've looked forward to talking to her, because she is like, it's kind of like coming home when you talk to Joelle. Like, there's this comfort I find with you that I honestly am so thankful, like, that you are a person for me, because you're so comforting. Always.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love talking to you too. You're a well of knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll do this. Maybe we should do this weekly.
I know. I think it's good, especially right now. We need the human connection, the therapy, the group therapy we got going here. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
All right. I think I'm going to title this therapy session with Kari Northey.
That'd be good. All right. Bye. Take care. Yeah. I'll see you soon.